Good evening. This will be a step-by-step demonstration of my workflow for migrating all of the platforms we have learned over the last couple weeks. So first, we are going to use our previous class of the Fibonacci code that just runs the Fibonacci sequence, and then at the end we print the 10th integer of that sequence. So let's go ahead and run that to make sure that we are starting off in a good place. We're just waiting for it to launch. And there we go. The 10th integer in the Fibonacci sequence is 55. So we are good to go to keep moving on. The next thing that I wanted to do was create a Junit test, which is our Fibonacci test right here, just to make sure that the outcome I was expecting, which is that 10th integer is 55, is actually correct and that our code doesn't decide to output a different integer or a different value in general. So we will run this test. And we can see that the green bar indicates that it was a success. We have no errors and no failures, so our JUnit is a success. The next thing that I wanted to do was, while I was creating these and throughout the rest of the process as well, I used the GitHub platform to keep version control of all of my changes, and if I needed to go back and fix anything, or if my computer crashed, which in fact it did. My Jenkins crashed, so I was able to just have my GitHub open and start back where I left off, which was really helpful. So you can see that this is our master file that has everything that we have from Eclipse, as well as in the future when we talk about the Jenkins file and the Docker files, and all of our comments about when the last commit was. Like, for example, the source file, once I finished that JUnit class and the Fibonacci class and added the Jenkins file, that was the last change or commit that I needed to make to that source file. And then more recent commits would be adding that Docker file, and I just wanted to make a random commit just to make sure that I had everything up to date, which is why I have that pause there. Next, we will go to Jenkins for another configuration of testing to make sure that we are still a go on our Java project and our Maven project. So for good measure, I will go ahead and build a new one live for you. And you can see on the side here the stage view, each process it's going through and how long it's taking to make sure that we are running this properly. And then once that build is complete, you can click on the hyperlink and it'll take you to all of its details, where you can see the status, the build was a success. So you can see what changes were made, since this is connected straight to that GitHub link. So it's kind of a redundancy, or not putting a single point of failure on that GitHub. It's kind of, you know, a backup for just making sure that you can see any changes. I haven't made any changes since I had last ran, but you can see on the second one that I did, I believe there was one commit. Yes, there was one commit, and I believe you can actually click on this to see what that entails. Yes, so it takes you straight to the GitHub link, actually, so you can see that live with the colors and what was removed, what was added, etc. So let's go ahead and go back to Jenkins. And then I think the next big section of this is the console output, so you can see if there was any errors in actually achieving connection with that GitHub link, or any of the stages in case there was an error in your Jenkins file. And at the end you can see finished success, so that's what we want for sure. The last thing in my workflow is the Docker file. So let's go back to Eclipse. And so our Docker file is makes us able to create images and containers. That way we can, when we use more advanced code, you can combine all of these platforms to your advantage. So right here I have my JDK 11. I'm going to make a directory called the midterm so that it's in its own platform, or its own location, I should say. We're going to copy the source file, which has our classes and tests in it, and then go ahead and run it. So in the background, while I was creating this video, I had already ran the docker build command. And so I just wanted to make sure, because my computer takes a little bit longer than others, so I wanted to make sure that we had that running in the background instead of waiting for that on the live video. And we can see that it was done successfully. So now we are going to run that within Docker run fibdf 1.0. And this should create the image, which hopefully should output that 10th integer line. All right, we do have an error. Excuse me while I go through my thought process to try to troubleshoot this error. Unfortunately, at this time, I do not know without doing the research offline to fix this on the spot. But normally, what you would see in the Docker desktop app is in this images side, that fibdf would pop up, and it would display that same print screen text of the 10th integer is, and in our case, it's 55. And in the event that I did not run that, which should be in here. Yes, it's at least in my container, so that's good. That fibdf 1.0. Let's see if we can click on that to look at it a bit. And it does print out the same thing of when we ran. So at least the connection between Eclipse, the command terminal, and Docker desktop are successful. Unfortunately, I just need to troubleshoot that syntax error. And other than that, that is my workflow for this Java Maven project, and I hope you enjoyed.